Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating counterfactual scenario. We're literally stripping away the layers of history, pun 100% intended, to ask a super fundamental question about our species. For millennia, humanity has been defined by what we wear, right? From animal pelts back in the Ice Age to those crazy synthetic fabrics woven in high-tech labs today, clothing is arguably our most constant companion. We wear it to sleep, we wear it to work, heck, we even wear it to swim. But what if we hit a giant cosmic reset button?
Seriously, just imagine it. What if humans never wore clothes? I want you to look down at what you're wearing right now. Now, imagine the exact temperature of the room you're sitting in hitting your bare skin. Think about the texture of the chair you're on. Maybe it's a rough wooden stool or, a sticky leather car seat. Imagine how drastically different your daily life, your morning routine, and just your basic baseline of comfort would feel right now if fabric just didn't exist in your world. At first glance, it sounds like a simple, maybe even kind of humorous change, but when you really tug at this thread, it alters absolutely everything about the human experience.
All right, let's get into part one, purpose of our clothing, beyond just fabric.
So clothing actually serves two massive dual roles for humanity. On one side, we have physical protection. This is our vital environmental armor. It's the literal barrier between our fragile biology and the heat, the extreme cold, and all the rough elements of the world. But on the other side, we have social identity. This is our primary method of cultural and self-expression. Think about it. A tailored, sharp suit instantly commands authority and respect in a boardroom, right? Versus how a pair of faded, baggy sweatpants immediately signals relaxation and weekend comfort. We communicate who we are, what we do, and exactly where we belong in the social hierarchy before we even speak a single word. Without clothing, both of these massive pillars of human existence completely vanish, leaving a monumental void we'd have to fill in entirely different ways.
Which brings us to part two, surviving the raw elements, the immediate shock. The immediate reality of a world without clothes highlights just how incredibly vulnerable we really are as a biological species. I mean, without fabric acting as a barrier, migrating to or living in a cold climate wouldn't just be mildly uncomfortable, it would present extreme immediate danger to human life. Early human migration out of warm climates, that would have hit a hard stop. Plus, we'd face completely unfiltered sun exposure. A simple walk to get groceries could result in severe sunburns, making skin protection a daily literal life-or-death puzzle. And our overall environmental sensitivity would absolutely skyrocket. Imagine taking a casual hike through the woods and brushing against a briar patch or just sitting down on a patch of rough, gravelly ground. That basic, thoughtless daily comfort we're all so used to taking for granted, completely gone. Freezing temperatures, sharp objects, and harsh sunlight become instant, inescapable threats.
So how would we actually cope with that? Well, instead of simply throwing on a winter jacket or a wide-brimmed sun hat, humans would be forced to completely restructure their daily routines and their environments. First off, there'd be a massive, constant reliance on physical shelter just to retain body heat and stay alive. Our architecture would look completely different. And to avoid that blistering sun, we would have to strictly stick to natural shade. Just think about what that does to a city. Would we build massive canopies over every single sidewalk? Would our roads be completely enclosed tunnels? Or hey, would we simply become a largely nocturnal species, running our errands and traveling across towns only after the sun goes down? Our entire day, our travel, and our work schedules would be strictly dictated by darting between safe, environmentally protected zones.
Let's move on to part three, adaptation, changing our bodies and habits.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how humanity would naturally respond over time. Over thousands of years, we'd witness a crazy evolutionary split in how we survive. On the physical adaptation side, our bodies would naturally just have to toughen up. Interestingly, millions of years ago, human ancestors actually lost most of their thick body hair in order to sweat better and regulate heat while hunting. But without the ability to wrap ourselves in animal skins to migrate north, we'd have to physiologically compensate all over again. We might develop thicker, much more resilient skin, or a significantly higher baseline tolerance for sweeping temperature changes. Then, on the behavioral adaptation side, our living patterns would strictly dictate where we could even exist. We wouldn't be able to easily expand and conquer the globe like we did. Instead, human communities would base their geography entirely around narrow bands of climate survivability, huddling near the equator, or maybe living uniquely deep underground to utilize the Earth's stable geothermal temperatures.
Zooming out a bit, let's look at part four, society, culture, and mindset, redefining normal.
I absolutely love this quote. Without fashion, human expression would find a new canvas. Humans are deeply, inherently creative creatures. We crave individuality. So without a multi-trillion-dollar clothing industry to show off who we are, we wouldn't just stop expressing our identity, we would pivot. The human body itself would become the ultimate everyday canvas. We'd likely see a massive rise in permanent and elaborate body art. Imagine intricate, full-body tattoos acting as the new high fashion. Complex scarification, vivid body painting, unique hairstyles, and structural, purely physical jewelry would take the place of designer brands. Your literal skin would be the only way to signal your taste, your wealth, and your belonging.
And it's so wild to think about how this affects us internally and socially. Our fundamental ideas of privacy would be completely altered from the ground up, likely establishing entirely new social norms regarding personal space and eye contact. Think about how we judge each other today. You wouldn't be able to gauge someone's status, their wealth, or their profession based on a designer label, a uniform, or a tailored cut. So how does a police officer or a judge assert immediate authority without a uniform? How does romance or dating fundamentally shift when the mystery of clothing is completely gone from the equation? Stripping away garments creates a radically different baseline for social comfort, vulnerability, and basic human interaction.
Let's transition to Part 5, Global Economy and Environment, the macro view. When we look at the massive global trade-offs of this scenario, the reality is stark. Economically, there'd be no clothing industry at all. That means millions upon millions of lost jobs worldwide, spanning agriculture, manufacturing, retail, the whole shebang. Entire national economies that currently rely heavily on garment production and textile exports would just collapse or be forced to pivot entirely. But on the flip side, we have the environmental impacts. We would see a drastic, world-changing reduction in industrial waste. The fast fashion landfills of today simply wouldn't exist. Fabric production is notoriously resource-heavy. I mean, it takes thousands of liters of water just to make a single cotton t-shirt. Without that demand, we wouldn't see massive ecological disasters like the drying up of the Aral Sea, and we wouldn't have microplastics from synthetic fleeces flooding our oceans. It's a massive, unprecedented economic disruption for sure, but an absolutely undeniable win for the planet's ecosystems.
As we pull all these threads together, the ultimate takeaway of our explainer today becomes incredibly clear. Clothing is so much more than just a layer of protection. It is the unseen architecture of our entire civilization. Yes, humans are incredibly resilient. We'd undoubtedly adapt physically and behaviorally to the raw elements of nature. But from the exact moment humanity draped that first animal hide over their shoulders to block out a cold breeze, clothing has quietly influenced everything. It dictated where we could physically migrate. It revolutionized how we communicate our identity to strangers, and it built the foundation for a massive, interconnected global economy. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. How much of your daily life is quietly dictated by fabric? I want you to really reflect on that as you go about your day. From the air-conditioned comfort of the room you're sitting in right now, to the confidence you feel walking into a social gathering, to the very design of the cities we live in, this incredibly basic, everyday tool governs almost everything we do. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it sparked some curiosity, and I'll see you next time as we continue to break down the fascinating world around us.